And of course, today, some of us will be talking about the Conservative leadership race. We're going to get the runners. It looks like they're going to be 6 of them. That is because Kemi Badenoch said that she is running overnight. Suella Braverman said that she isn't. And Matthew Syed, they both put out manifestos to a certain extent. Kemi Badenoch writing in the Times, saying she's going to turn back the tide of liberalism. Suella Braverman writing in another Conservative-leaning newspaper, saying that there simply wasn't the willingness in the Conservative Party to face up to home truths. Did either of them, you think, do anything to restore trust in politics?
Well, it's got to be. I was about to say it's going to be an interesting race, but I suspect most of the public who are not political anoraks like us three are completely bored of the whole thing. The Tories clearly had a complete catastrophe. The one silver lining, I suppose, for them is that the depth and breadth of support for Keir Starmer was not as high as the number of seats that were gained by Labour might imply. I think it is true that liberalism has gone too far in certain respects. They're certainly right to focus on the importance of controlling borders. The serial deceit that was told about both particularly legal immigration, since Tony Blair, but certainly in the Cameron years, I think was an absolute disgrace. Tens of thousands when it was hundreds of thousands. And I think there is a rational approach to legal immigration. And I think that the Conservatives can be at the forefront, if Labour doesn't do it, of an international consensus in the liberal West about how to control illegal immigration. So I think there are some things that they could do which aren't gimmicky. My fundamental thought on the Tories is that they're having an identity crisis. I don't think they entirely know how to. The key issue in democratic politics is how to grow the economy, and they need to think a bit more about that.
Kemi Badenoch says capitalism. That's how you grow the economy.
Well, she's right about that, in my view, and that would be the answer given by history. But the problem in the UK, the European Union, and in the United States is that we don't have capitalism anymore. We have rigged capitalism. The very big companies have ever more monopoly power, particularly in the tech sector. There is massive lobbying invested interests. The amount of churn in the FTSE and the other main indices, the big companies are staying ever longer. Virtually no insurgent companies. Capitalism is about failure more than anything else. It's about new companies disrupting the status quo. Schumpeter understood this. He called it creative destruction. That has virtually petered out in Europe and in the UK. It's still going to a certain extent in the US. There are clear quantitative easing has been a disaster too. That has undermined capitalism, massively inflated asset prices. But if you want to have a discussion about how to reform capitalism, it's one that I haven't heard from either major party in the last decade, but there are solutions out there.
Rachel, have any of these Tory candidates got the answer in your view?
What was interesting to me about Kemi Badenoch's piece in the Times today was her focus on identity politics, which I think is nasty identity politics, which I think is going to be a big part of her pitch, despite the sort of, if you like, the headline about reforming capitalism or reclaiming capitalism. She's a sort of culture warrior, and she's proudly gone out on that limb. And she's trying to position identity politics as a left-wing thing, and sort of the war on woke, if you like, as something that the Conservatives...
sounds like she's really talking about gender politics.
Yeah, but what I think is interesting, the danger for her is that there's a sort of mirror image, if you like, on left and right when it comes to culture wars and identity politics. And I did an event with Kemi Badenoch during the general election campaign, and she made a speech talking about how comparing the Labour plans for racial pay reporting on the gap between different racial employees in the way that you have with gender pay. She compared it to apartheid South Africa. And I said to her afterwards, are you really saying that having fair pay on the grounds of race is the same as apartheid South Africa? And she said, yes, she thought it was the first step on a sort of slippery slope. But I think there's a danger there in the right-wing interpretation of this, almost inflating those divisions in the way that she's accusing the left of. And I think that could backfire, because I think I'm not sure that the voters really are that interested in any of these cultural issues. They care about the fact that they can't afford to pay their bills, and they can't get their kids into a good school. They can't get an operation when they want. They're not interested in these identity politics, whether that's on the left or the right.
Give us the name of the 6 that we know about. Who's going to be the next leader of the Tory party?
I don't know. It's too soon to tell. I think they'll be going through to the final 2. You'll have one right wing and one centrist, I assume, given the makeup of the MPs. It sounds as if Tom Tugendhat may be taking that kind of one nation mantle among the MPs. And then, I don't know, on the right, there's going to be a tough fight, I think.
You're going to venture a prediction, Matthew?
I would definitely go for Tom Tugendhat, but I don't know if Rachel agrees with this. I think that distinctions between left and right don't really have much meaning anymore, or even one nation concepts. What you want is a leader who's rational, who can see the world changing very fast with AI, very high levels of geopolitical instability, the need to rebuild capitalism, to go back to what Adam was talking about, to protect borders. I'm not sure whether these are left or right, liberal or illiberal, libertarian. The labels of 20 years ago I don't think are fit for purpose anymore, but of the leaders that I've looked at, Tom Tugendhat has by far the most realistic manifesto.
Okay, let's move on to the Olympics. Britain, I think, is something like 13th or 14th in the medal table, and as yet there's no gold because Tom Petey ended up in joint silver position. He was the greatest hope yesterday for a gold. Matthew, is it time to face up to it? It's not going to be a vintage year for Team GB?
I've got to say, Adam, I'm loving it. You sound very despondent. I was despondent yesterday after the Petey race. He lost by 0.02 of a second, and I was on my feet. I find it, look, whether we come 3rd on the medal table, 5th, 10th, we're going to see drama, heroism. Every single event that you watch on television, it will be somebody, as my former colleague Simon Barnes once said, doing the thing that all the rest of their life has been preparation for. I remember playing in Barcelona and Sydney, and it's 4 years of build-up for that one moment of truth. And win or lose, it's an extraordinary experience. And just to see these people at the pinnacle, what we're celebrating here is excellence, not kind of influencers or media creations or all the fluff that we see in the world today. Genuine meritocratic excellence. And the other thing I love about it is the way the athletes celebrate the people who have helped them to get to where they wish to get to, parents and coaches and mentors. So it's a wonderful thing.
And Adam Petey, I thought he reacted brilliantly. He sort of said he didn't feel as if he'd lost because he'd given it his all. He'd come back after a really tough time with his mental health, and he'd got there. He got to silver medal, and that in itself is brilliant. That is a victory.
Is that perhaps pointing to that maybe the whole tone of the BBC coverage is wrong, because it is very much British hopes, how Britain is doing, where we are in the medal table, and from what Matthew's saying, it's a kind of celebration of sport.
Yeah, I feel that's not the right. I thought the whole build-up yesterday was sort of building up to this Adam Petey moment. I felt incredibly sorry for him, actually, the sort of pressure he must have been under. And just the fact that he was there and competed as he did, I thought was brilliant. And his attitude to coming second was even better. That as a role model is what we want to show our children.
What do you think, Matthew? I mean, is it our fault, if you like, the media and the BBC for looking at this in the wrong way?
Well, I love I don't know if you saw it last night, there was a lovely little sequence where Adam Petey's mum and dad and nephews and nieces talk, because what you really want in sport is to understand the journey. When you get onto that, on the side of the pool and you're about to dive in, it's the culmination of years and years of sacrifice. And I love hearing about the journey and the story, the personal narratives. BBC doesn't have all the rights, does it, anymore? So it perhaps doesn't have as much coverage of the other sports as it would like. But I wouldn't be too... I mean, I think BBC Sport could up its game in a number of different respects, at the Wimbledon, the Olympics and beyond. It's got a bit tired and stale to an extent. Hopefully it'll be shaken up. I think they have a new head of sport, a former sports editor of the Times is there. But I have to... You probably can hear this, Adam. I'm loving it.